Wonder why every black boy in America wants to be a rapper or an athlete. Because we don't prioritize education, brothers and sisters. And they deliberately do not prioritize education, brothers and sisters, because there is a fear of black intelligence. Oh, yes, it is. See, what they don't tell you is most of the major inventions that America uses today came out of the minds of black people who did not get an education sitting next to white people. See, brothers and sisters, we invented the gas mask, and we wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the gas mask. We wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the stoplight. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the self-lubricating engine. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the refrigerated truck, the golf tee, the radio transmitter. We weren't sitting next to white children when we came up with the technology for the cell phone or the internet. All of these things we did on our own in those old, dilapidated black schoolhouses right here in Jacksonville, Florida. See, what y'all don't know is the reason the Supreme Court desegregated the schools was not to give black children a better education. The Supreme Court desegregated the schools on May 17th, 1954, because the white power structure was afraid that if we don't take over the education of black children, they may one day surpass our own children. You know what gave birth to these black Wall Streets? Those dilapidated black schoolhouses. And America was scared that if you don't bring the Negro under our direct academic supervision, he will surpass our white children. They didn't integrate the schools to help us out. They integrated the schools to dumb us down.
Hello guys, welcome once again to the channel. I hope wherever you are, you're having a great time. Now, we know that education system that we have today in the world has a lot of history behind it. But have you ever questioned yourself the purpose of this education? Is it that we are being trained to serve a purpose that somebody designed somewhere? Or is it something that was innate with human beings? You know, as an African, our past education system was quite interesting. It involved older generation teaching younger generation about the norms and behaviors of cultures that they come from. So if you are from a specific tribe, you are taught on the cultural norms of your tribe and how you relate with other tribes. You are given the history of your tribe and how your ancestors acquired or even captured the land where you live. That is all that was there. We were taught about how we are supposed to relate with the young people and how we are supposed to relate also with elderly people. So this education was just centralized, and it was meant to have the society keep its history and keep its cultural norms. So the question is, the education that we have today, where did it come from? And what was its purpose? In today's video, we're going to delve in this issue deeply. And one person who is going to help us understand this is one Dr. Umar Ifatunde. Dr. Umar has been very, very vocal on issues affecting black people in the United States. And he is somebody who has always championed for the return of black Americans to Africa. You know, there are those days when Ghana declared the year of return, when they accepted black Americans to come back to the continent and trace where their DNA came from. So in this video, he was giving a lecture, and this speech is quite interesting. I want you to watch it, then we shall come back and share our thoughts together. Let's watch.
Edward Waters University. Make some noise, family, one time. Thank you. I want to thank the president, the first lady, the provost, all the assistant presidents, administration, faculty, students, and the Jacksonville, Florida community for thinking enough of me tonight to be here, to join in this celebration of the 99th annual Negro History Week. It was February the 7th of 1926. The Right Excellent, Most Honorable Marcus Garvey was in prison on trumped-up charges engineered by J. Edgar Hoover in the FBI. Dr. Carter G. Woodson, one of the first American Africans to get a PhD, from Harvard University, founded in 1915, the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. Having done that in 1915, Dr. Carter G. Woodson felt that it wasn't enough. He needed to do more. And so on February the 7th of 1926, he gave us Negro History Week. And contrary to urban legend, it was not the government that gave us the month of February. It was not the white power structure that gave us the month of February. Dr. Carter G. Woodson chose the month of February because it included the Earth Day, the solar return of my ancestor and cousin, the great Frederick Douglass, but also because it included the Earth Day of Abraham Lincoln. And we know Abraham Lincoln was no friend of African people. But Dr. Carter G. Woodson saw fit to include him in the rationale so as to appease scared Negroes who didn't feel comfortable celebrating black history without some white people getting some of the attention. And then, even after founding Negro History Week on February the 7th, 1926, once again, Dr. Carter G. Woodson said, I must do something else. Already the publisher and author of 16 books, already the publisher and lead author of the Journal of Negro History, in 1933, he published what I believe is one of the most important, groundbreaking books in the history of black America. And the name of that book is Miseducation of the Negro. If you have not read it, your homework assignment from Dr. Umar today, not just for the Edward Waters University students, but for all of you here, if you have not read Miseducation of the Negro, you must read it. I think it's one of the 3, not 5, not 10, not 25, not 100. I think it's one of the top 3 greatest books ever written on the condition of African people. In that book, Dr. Carter G. Woodson says, when you control a man's mind, you need not worry about his behavior. When you control what he thinks, you need not worry about what he will do. If you control his beliefs about himself, you don't have to tell him to go to the back door. He will go on his own because his training has made it so. And when he gets to the back door, if there is no back door, he will make a back door and walk out the back door. This is relevant now because President Trump signed an executive order to do away with critical race theory in schools. He signed an executive order to do away with the teaching of the truth of American history. They don't want the truth of slavery taught. It diminishes the propaganda of what America is supposed to be. They don't want the history of racism taught because it diminishes the character of what America is supposed to be. But to that I say, brothers and sisters of Jacksonville, Florida, students of Edward Waters University, let them do away with it on the federal level. That don't stop us from celebrating who we are on the local level. See, we have to understand as African people that the first step of getting out of slavery is realizing you don't need your slave master no more. So 99 years. That means next year, brothers and sisters, we'll be celebrating the centennial of Negro History Week. And you know what's interesting about that centennial? It occurs in the very same year that America celebrates her 250th birthday next year. So 2026 is the centennial of black history, and 2026 is the 250-year anniversary of the birth of the United States. You know what that means? That means that every one of you has a decision you need to make between now and next year. And that decision is, will you be celebrating your slave master or will you be celebrating your ancestors? That's the only decision that you have to make for next year. See, the reason they want the history of slavery out of the books is because that can muddy up next year's celebration. The reason they need slavery out the way because next year is the big celebration where America's going to sell to the world this propagandized image of her being so holy and sanctified. So we can't talk about slave ships and rape. We can't talk about forced dehumanization. We can't talk about Breonna Taylor and Trayvon Martin. We can't talk about Sandra Bland and Amir Pope. We can't talk about Philando Castile and Freddie Gray. We can't talk about none of that because that makes us look bad. We got to tuck that in because according to the president, we don't want white kids to feel bad about what their ancestors did. That's interesting, ain't it? Don't tell the truth so white kids don't feel ashamed. But you had no problem telling lies to black children for 400 years and nobody signed that out in an executive order. You know, we had a conversation upstairs before we came down, and I was sharing with the students, distinguished seniors, that back in my birth city of Philadelphia, tomorrow will be a Super Bowl parade for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I took issue with the school district of Philadelphia's decision to cancel class tomorrow so our children can go celebrate with the Eagles. And I'm trying to understand how in a city with some of the lowest test scores in America, you can afford to take a day off to go celebrate the Philadelphia Eagles. Some of the lowest math scores in the state of Pennsylvania, but we're not going to have class on Friday so y'all can go celebrate the Eagles. And we wonder why every black boy in America wants to be a rapper or an athlete. Because we don't prioritize education, brothers and sisters. And they deliberately do not prioritize education, brothers and sisters, because there is a fear of black intelligence. Oh, yes, it is. See, what they don't tell you is most of the major inventions that America uses today came out of the minds of black people who did not get an education sitting next to white people. See, brothers and sisters, we invented the gas mask, and we wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the gas mask. We wasn't sitting next to white children when we invented the stoplight. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the self-lubricating engine. We weren't sitting next to white children when we invented the refrigerated truck, the golf tee, the radio transmitter. We weren't sitting next to white children when we came up with the technology for the cell phone or the internet. All of these things we did on our own in those old, dilapidated black schoolhouses right here in Jacksonville, Florida. See, what y'all don't know is the reason the Supreme Court desegregated the schools was not to give black children a better education. The Supreme Court desegregated the schools on May 17th, 1954, because the white power structure was afraid that if we don't take over the education of black children, they may one day surpass our own children. Rosewood, Florida, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Charleston, South Carolina. You know what gave birth to these black Wall Streets? Those dilapidated black schoolhouses. And America was scared that if you don't bring the Negro under our direct academic supervision, he will surpass our white children. They didn't integrate the schools to help us out. They integrated the schools to dumb us down. You don't believe me? Guess what? Intelligence tests done on children from birth to age 5 reveal that African babies outperform the infants of any other race, including the Asians. Our children outperform all other groups. They even tell you in developmental psychology that black children grow quicker than all the other children put together. Well, if the brain is responsible for intelligence, and if the brain is responsible for physical development, if the black child physically grows quicker than the other children, doesn't it also reason that the black child might be intellectually quicker than the other children also? That's why they came up with these IQ tests. I need you to understand something, Jacksonville, Florida. Testing came to America so they could segregate against black people. Let me say that one more time. The reason you got to take an LSAT to go to law school, the reason you got to take an MCAT to go to med school, the reason you got to take an SAT to go to college, the reason you got to take a GRE to go to grad school, the reason you got to take an exam to be a police officer or take an exam to be a fighter is because through the tests, they can engineer who passes and who fails. I'm going to go a step further because some of you are saying, no way. You're not going to convince me that they can engineer a test that will guarantee the whites pass and the blacks fail. How can they do such a thing, Dr. Umar? Let me explain it to you. Every test in the world goes through a process known as standardization. Let me tell you what standardization is, because I participated in the standardization for the most popular intelligence test in this country and the most popular achievement test in this country. Standardization is the process of testing the different demographics of your society. You pre-test everybody. Follow me. You're going to test poor black children. You're going to test rich black children. You're going to test single-parented black children. You're going to test black kids whose parents only have a high school diploma. You're going to test black children whose parents have a master's degree. You're going to do the same for the Arabs, the same for the Anglo-Saxons, the same for the Jews, the Arabs, the East Indians, the Latinos. Everybody, you're going to pre-test the test. So when they pre-test the test, they have the evidence of how you will perform on the final test. Stay with me. When your child takes a reading comprehension exam on the Florida State Assessment, the Georgia State Assessment, there might be 12 questions on that test. But the pre-test had 12,000 questions. The math section, it might be 12 questions. But the pre-test had 12,000 questions. My question for y'all tonight, how did they narrow down from 12,000 items on the pretest that they gave the children all over America in secret? How did they narrow down from 12,000 items on the pretest to the 12,000 items on the final test? They looked at how the black scored. They looked at how the white scored. They looked at how the Asians scored. So when you hear these news releases and programs telling you that black children are 10 points less intelligent than the whites, black children are 10 points less intelligent than the Asians, I need you to remember that Dr. Umar already told me that y'all tested the test before y'all came up with the final test, so y'all knew how the black children will do before they took the test. They engineer black failure. Do you know why? Standardized testing is the new Jim Crow sign. The way you keep black people out of opportunity is give them a test, engineer the test, and when they fail or score low on the test, you don't have to say, I'm keeping you out of grad school because you black. You say, I'm keeping you out of grad school because you ain't score high enough. The test score does the same thing the no blacks Jim Crow sign does. But the added advantage of the test score is you're using numbers and not words. And because you're using numbers and not words, black people think they have a fair chance. When we give an IQ test, brothers and sisters, there's 4 major sections of the intelligence test. There's processing speed, how fast you can execute intellectually. Black children do as well as Asians and Caucasians. There's working memory, how well you can hold information in your mind and manipulate it. Black children do as well as Asians and Anglo-Saxons. There's nonverbal reasoning, how well you can solve problems for which you receive no education, like a Rubik's Cube. Black children do as well as the Anglo-Saxons and the Asians. So if black children do as well as everybody else on processing speed, if black children do as well as everybody else on nonverbal reasoning, if black children do as well as everybody else on working memory, why is there a consistent 10-point black, white, black, Asian test score? You know why? I neglected to give you the final composite. And guess what that one is called? Verbal comprehension. Do you know what that is? That's the words and ideas white people use that black children never heard of, don't need to know about, and it has nothing to do with how smart you are. In fact, we call verbal comprehension crystallized intelligence. Do you know what that means? It is based on how well you've been educated. So what is it doing in an IQ test? IQ test is supposed to measure native intelligence, not learned information. So you know why they leave it in the IQ test? Because without it, there's no black-white test gap. The white privilege is in the verbal scale. So you say, Dr. Umar, why don't we get them to take it out? They'll never take it out. Because if they take it out, the fallacy of white intellectual superiority falls apart. And if they take it out, black children in Florida might start scoring higher than white children in Florida. And you can't have black children in Florida scoring higher than white children in Florida because you upset the status quo. Now you got to ask, why we only got 2 black students working on a medical degree at the University of Florida if blacks are scoring higher? Why you only got a handful of blacks at Florida State working on a law degree if the black kids are scoring higher? If the black children outscore the Asians and Anglo-Saxons, you no longer have an excuse for white privilege. So they use test scores to keep black people in their place. America tests more than any other nation on earth for that very purpose of denying opportunity. Because guess what, brothers and sisters? If you intend to teach everybody, you don't need a graduation exit exam. In fact, how is it possible that I can have straight A's and B's on my report card for 12 years and fail a graduation test? As Brother Malcolm said, you've been had, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok, and led astray. One of the reasons I decided to build the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy is I got tired of going to school fighting for our children. They want to put them in special education. Isn't the education in Jacksonville special enough? It don't need to be no more special than what it is. Well, he's behind in reading. I understand that. But you don't go to special ed because you're behind. You go to special ed because you're disabled. And the problem in Jacksonville, Florida, the problem in Hollywood, Florida, the problem in Miami, Florida, the problem in Orlando, Florida is most black parents think special ed is for children who are behind. If you are behind, you don't go to special ed, you get a tutor. You only go to special ed if you are disabled. Raheem is in the 5th grade. Raheem is reading on the 2nd grade. Raheem is not disabled. Raheem is behind. And do you know why Raheem is behind? Because in 2nd grade, Raheem had a first-year teacher. She could barely read her damn self. In the third grade, Raheem got suspended or sent out of the class at least 2 days a week. How he going to learn how to read when the teacher never leaves him in the classroom long enough to learn how to read? In the fourth grade, Raheem's fourth grade teacher went out on maternity leave. I understand. She went out just before Christmas on maternity leave. She was gone the rest of the school year. So Raheem had 15 substitutes from Christmas to June. He ain't learned nothing because he had a long-term substitute. And the long-term substitute don't have a degree in reading instruction. The long-term substitute don't have a degree in math instruction. The long-term substitute was just somebody who needed to pay their mortgage. And they knew that the quickest way to get a job is by being a substitute teacher in a black neighborhood. And because when you put a child in special education, the school gets double the money for that child. Did y'all know that? Every time one of you put your child in special ed in Florida, they get double the money of the regular children. Special education is a hustle. Special education is a racket. Special education is a scam of making money off black boys you never taught in the first place. But guess what? I can't blame the school system in totality. I have to blame you, because before I can put your child in special ed, you have to sign your name 4 times. 4 times. And I'm trying to understand for the life of me. My cousin, the Honorable Frederick Douglass, taught himself how to read. Taught himself under the threat of death. 200 years ago, taught himself. And here we are 200 years later with libraries in every community, bookstores in every city, retired teachers in every church. And your son can't learn how to read without a special education. Listen, if you are buying video games for children who can't read on grade level, if you buying tablets and iPads for children who can't count on grade level, you a bigger reason for the problem than any public school teacher. Because they will have our children for 1 year, maybe a few, but they our babies for the rest of their life. And what the school district gets wrong, the black community has to pay for. These brothers running around sticking people up, robbing cars, selling dope, doing whatever they do. You know why they doing it? Because nobody gave them a chance when they sat in them classes. And then we add to it because all we want to do is celebrate the athletes. My son is the #1 quarterback in Florida. Can't even write his own name. And what you need to understand is that a child in America has a greater chance of being struck by lightning than ever becoming a professional athlete. What are we doing, brothers and sisters? When I speak at the career days and ask the children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Rapper, basketball, football, baseball. It ain't changed in 25 years of being a school psychologist. And I blame professional black men for this. The reason Raheem wants to be Lil Wayne, the reason Raheem wants to be Young Jeezy, the reason Tiffany wants to be Nicki Minaj and Cardi B is because all the professional black women and all the professional black men, as soon as you got your masters and as soon as you got a good job, you abandon your neighborhood. So when our children come outside, they don't see doctors. They don't see lawyers. They don't see dentists. They don't even see the politicians or the principals. They see the corner boys. And that is who they emulate. You have to sign permission for me to evaluate your child. You have to sign my evaluation confirming you agree with what I said. And most of you never even read it before you agree with it. You sign the IEP, and then you sign the special ed service agreement. If I ain't got your signature on 4 documents, your child can't go to special ed. So stop telling me what the school did and start telling me what you did. And let me say a word on ADHD, and then I want to go straight to my college students here tonight. Listen, ADHD is a scam. Don't you ever put your child on Ritalin. Don't you ever put your child on Adderall. Don't you ever put your child on Cyclert. Don't you ever put your child on Metadate. Don't you ever put your child on Concerta. These psychiatric meds are nothing but synthesized crack cocaine. Let me ask you a question. When did we get ADD? 1980. When did the CIA drop crack off in the black community? 1980. They started drugging the children and drugging their fathers the same time. Psychiatric holocaust. You mean to tell me most black boys in Florida go to a school dominated by women? Black women or white women, women none the same. And I'm not demonizing women. A lot of them care. But when you stick a boy in a female-dominated institution, and you expect him to act like a girl, and when he can't sit still like a girl can, he's considered mentally disordered. Something's wrong with that. And my black mothers, stop playing into that. Your son is not your daughter when a girl goes through puberty. When your daughter hits 11 and 12 years old and she goes through puberty, when her body starts making her into the woman she's going to be, she sleeps all day. Girls sleep through puberty. I'm tired. I need a nap. But when boys go through puberty, we don't sleep. We don't sleep at all. We want to run, tackle, jump, climb, break, fight. That's what a boy does. But when you're a black boy in a white-dominated public school system that never wanted you anyway, when you don't know how to sit still like a girl for 8 hours a day, something your teacher can't even do, they send you to the psychiatrist to get some medication. What the hell you need medication for to get an education? Drugs, so you can sit still long enough to learn about Christopher Columbus. Thank you, King. Do you know what ADHD really stands for? Ain't no daddy at home disorder, ADHD. Ain't no daddy at home. That's all it is. 1980, they start locking up the men for crack. 1980, they dropped off ADHD. 1980, they dropped off Ritalin. So you mean to tell me my father could go to jail for 20 years for having an ounce of crack? Because selling drugs is wrong, but you will give me the same drug. Listen to the hypocrisy. My father in jail for 20 years for an ounce of crack, but you will give his 5-year-old son the same crack so he can behave for white women. Somebody said, Dr. Umar, do you not think non-black people can teach black children? Of course I do. They can teach them how to read. They can teach them how to write. They could teach them how to count. They could teach them history and science and social studies. But you know the one thing a Caucasian, an Arab, an East Indian, a Latino could not teach us, and that is how to survive racism in America. Because I don't care how smart you are, if you don't know how to survive racism, you won't survive this country. And some of you say, well, my son got ADHD, his father's home. Okay, well, you got ain't no discipline at home disorder. AKA spoiled ass Negro child. And if it ain't that, it's an artificial diet at home disorder. Sugar, caffeine, food dye, high fructose corn syrup. If I go to your house, how much sugar in your refrigerator right now? Your son is a sugar addict. And so are you. Some of y'all scratching right now, can't wait to get home and get a Pepsi, a Haagen-Dazs. You a fiend. We got all kind of fiends in the black community. Fiending for sugar, fiending for weed, fiending for money, fiending for attention. And my young black brothers, some of y'all, fiending for snow bunnies. I must say this. I must say this. When I say that black men need to be with black women, I'm accused of being a racist. But when the white bank don't give black people loans for homes, they're not considered racist. I have nothing against the Anglo-Saxon woman. I have nothing against the Asian woman, the Latino woman. I'm dead serious. I respect all women because I'm an African. We are humanitarians. I harbor no hate or hurt for any group. The reason I'm against black men dating out the community is not because of a hate, not because the white woman is less than. I will not do to them what they did to me. The reason black men need to stay with black women is because that's who we're supposed to be with. How can you be born of a black woman and not want one yourself? Talk to me. Listen. Snow bunnies never. Listen. Marriage. Marriage is a financial institution. If you don't believe marriage is a financial institution, I want you to go on down to the local county courthouse. And I want you to sit in the courtroom when they're going over divorce proceedings. If you don't think marriage is about money, go sit in divorce court and see if you see anybody down there asking for half of their love back. They splitting up houses, cars, retirement funds, bank accounts. They're not splitting up love and emotions. Marriage is about money. And although most black men do marry black women, the higher we go up in income and occupation, the less we do. And let's be honest, black boys, young brothers, kings, you're not dating white women because you just couldn't help who you fell in love with. You dating white women because your insecurity complex dictates that you go to bed with the same person your oppressor went to bed with. In order for you to feel like a man, you got to have the wife of the one you consider to be a man. And when you leave this earth, your non-black wife will not be coming to the black community to drop off any of your money. Name me a single black superstar, singer, dancer, actor, rapper, comedian, who died and left their inheritance to a non-black woman. And that non-black woman came to our community to share some of the wealth. Not one of them. And they never will. Because you ain't nothing but an economic stimulus package for another community's daughter. And if you need your woman to be light-complected, we got light-complected sisters. If you need African vanilla, we got African vanilla. If you need African lemonade, we got African lemonade. If you need African pina colada, we got African pina colada. But we also got some of that sweet brown sugar. We also got some butter almond, we got some butter pecan. We got some cinnamon. We got some agave. We got that chocolate fudge. To my college students, my university students, my EWU Tigers, all of you better understand something. That your time at this university must be taken seriously. What you're going through right now, this beautiful time of being a college student, one day it will be over. I wish I was back in college. No bills, no mortgage, no student loans to worry about. All you got to do is take your shower, get ready for class, go to the caf, go to the activity center, hang out, flirt with your girlfriend, have fun. You didn't have a worry in the world except your grades. But when you leave here, all the worries in the world will be yours. And you better make sure you leave here with that piece of paper called a college degree. Because there's nothing worse than a Negro to go to an HBCU, one of our colleges, and to leave without a credential. Nothing wrong with being an alpha and a kappa and a sigma and a q and an iota. But you didn't come here to join a fraternity. It's okay to be an AKA and a delta, a SG Rho. Hold on. In my sexy Zetas. But you didn't come here to be that. It's okay to be the president of a student organization, the vice president of another one, the secretary of another one. It's okay to be on the band. It's okay to write for the newspaper. It's okay to be a part of all the clubs. But you didn't come here for that. You came here to get your education. And you better get it. And you better make sure you graduate from EWU with a QPA respectable enough to earn you a spot in grad school. Because I work with young people who got that bachelor's, but grades were so low when they earned it that nobody will give them a seat for their master's. So you better make sure you taking care of business. And while you at it, you're going to have to make a decision, college students. All of us in here who done been to college, we had to make that decision. And that decision is a real simple question you will ask yourself. Will you use your education to benefit your people or to handicap them? So many of our greatest minds sided with the power structure against their own. What if Condoleezza Rice was on our side? What if Clarence Thomas was on our side? You can't walk the fence. 20 years from now, I either call you a hero or a sellout. Choose your side. And I want you to understand, EWU students, that everything you become or don't become in life is a direct result of one thing. It's not your intelligence. It's not your attractiveness. It's not your talents, your skills, your family background, or your hometown. The most important thing that will dictate how far or not far you go in life is the amount of discipline you have built into your character. And what is Dr. Umar's definition of discipline? It's the ability to do what you don't want to do when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. If you ain't got that, you won't go far. This world ain't run by people who are the brightest. This world is run by people who are the most committed. Persistence and determination runs this earth. Do you know most medical doctors were not mentally gifted? Most medical doctors didn't even graduate at the top of their class. They became doctors because they was committed to doing so. What is it you're committed to? What problem in Black America are you going to solve? Because we not done yet. We got hospitals that ain't been built. We got communities that ain't been built. We got diseases that don't have cures. We got children without no fathers. You got work to do. And my beautiful African princesses, I need you to understand, ladies, right here, right now, before you get out there, that you are so much more than your hair. And you are so much more than your body. And don't you allow none of these young men here or the men waiting for you out there to reduce you to your hair and your body. Because if you allow them to do that, you have allowed them to objectify you. And if you're going to let a man objectify you, we might as well put you back on the plantation. Black men, these young ladies come here to go to school. Don't you distract them from their education by playing on their emotions. The late, great Pan-Africanist musician Bob Marley once said, one of the worst things a man can do is open, be loved, with no intention of fulfilling it. And I say to you, young brothers, from an African spiritual perspective, in our culture, God created a group of feminine energies that help preside over this reality. And those feminine energies are the caretakers of women's best interests. And when men mistreat women, those same spirits that protect our women will punish you. So you had better be careful of how you treat black women, because a lot of the bad luck we get as men, and I'm talking to the adult brothers in here as well, a lot of the bad luck we get as men is attributable to nothing other than the way we treat our sisters. As I prepare to wrap this up, I want to say this. We've had 4 serious struggles in our time here in America. Our first struggle, the first 100 years or so, we fought for our humanity. Some of y'all don't know this. Before we could fight to end slavery, we had to prove that we were human beings. Did y'all forget that? I think y'all forget that. And you know why I think y'all forget that we had to fight for our humanity? It's because I see a lot of you, students and adults, putting our struggle as Africans in America on the same level as immigrants. I see some of y'all putting our struggle as Africans and Americans on the same level with those who fight for sexual freedoms. I see y'all putting our struggle in America as American Africans on the same level as gender equality. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. LGBTs were not put on slave ships. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. White women weren't put on slave ships. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters. European and Arab and Asian immigrants were not put on slave ships. Africans were put on slave ships. Stop confusing. Stop confusing who we are and what we've been through. We're the only people in America who showed up as imports. Everybody else showed up as immigrants. We're the only people in America whose dehumanization was codified by law. The United States Constitution gave you a right to dehumanize and own black people. That wasn't true for nobody else. We are the only people where it was punishable by death to want to get an education. You ever see pictures of our ancestors in slavery with their fingers missing? That's not because they had an accident. Whenever you got caught with a piece of paper, a pen or a pencil, or a book in your hand, they would cut one of the digits off. So if you got caught 3 times, no thumb. You got caught 3 more times, that finger gone. And if you kept on getting caught trying to learn, you might end up with no hands at all. Don't you dare compare me to somebody else's struggle. Black woman, could you imagine having a baby, walking through Jacksonville, Florida on a slave auction? And because your baby crying too loud, because your baby is too much of a distraction to the slave auctioneer, he would take your baby and give it away for free for anybody who wanted one. And if nobody wanted the baby, they were suffocated underwater. And you want to compare what we've been through? Do y'all know that our little girls, 7, 8, and 9, was the preferred bedmates of these slave masters? Thomas Jefferson used to go to bed with a little girl named Sally Hemings. And he was so sexually maladjusted that even when he went home to Europe on vacation, that little black girl, Sally Hemings, had to go with him. And you want to include the immigrants? No, I respect the immigrant struggle. I respect the women's rights struggle. I respect the LGBT struggle in terms of not being harmed or hurt, because I don't think nobody should be hurt for whatever situation they got going on. But you ain't go through what I've been through. And you ain't going to cherry pick my struggle for your benefit. We hate no one, but damn it, we love ourselves. And we love ourselves first. Black people first. And why? Why do we Pan-Africanists say black people first? Because charity starts at home. And how you going to help somebody else when you ain't done helping yourself yet? The only group you belong to that God chose is your African race membership. You could become a Kappa, but you can give it up too. You could become a Zeta, you could give it up too. You could become an American, you can give it up too. You could become a nurse, a doctor, you could give it up too. You could be a Floridian, you can move and be a Georgian, you can give that up. You can give up your Masonic lodges, you can give up your secret societies, you can give up your gang, you can give up your neighborhood. You can give up everything you belong to except being black. I want to tell a story to end my message tonight. Before I do, I want to give you my phone number, especially my parents. If you got issues with your children and you need to schedule a consultation, send me a text message and we will schedule it. Do not put babies in special ed. Why are your children being evaluated at 5, 6, 7 years old? Are you crazy? How in the hell do you have dyslexia at 5 and you just started learning how to read? Will y'all please knock it off? You know what the problem is? Too many black children got teachers who don't care and black parents who couldn't care less. If I was in charge of mental health in the black community, we wouldn't even evaluate the children. Never again. We would only evaluate their parents. I'm going to give my number 3 times. And if we take a photo tonight after we're completely done here, please text me the photo. If you want it on my social media, I will post it. And plus, that gives people a chance to let me know if you're an undercover agent or not. Because the coonocracy is real. 215-989-9858. 215-989-9858. Thank God we can count. 215-989-9858. Black Queens forever. I want to give you a story. And the story I got for you is the story of a black woman whose birthday we celebrated on January the 29th. By most historical accounts, that's the day on which she was born, January the 29th of 1820. Her name was Araminta Ross. In her early 20s, Queen Mother Araminta Ross ran away from slavery. She changed her name, taking on the name of her mother and the last name of the man she thought she would stay married to. And so Araminta Ross became Harriet Tubman. As a child, Queen Mother Harriet wasn't considered to be a valuable slave. They tried to sell her, but nobody wanted her. So they gave her the job of men to do. She had to cut down trees. She had to go into the swamp and find muskrats and other dangerous animals and bring them back. She wasn't treated like a woman. She was treated like a man. One day, her slave master had a 2-pound weight. He tried to throw it at another slave as a punishment. And Queen Mother Harriet Tubman, being the servant of the Lord she is, she stood in way of that weight and got clocked in her head. She bled for days and suffered from blackouts for the rest of her life. One day she got a vision that it was time to go free. So in 1849, Harriet set out for her freedom. She came through Wilmington, Delaware, and ended up at the Philadelphia Underground Railroad in Center City, Philadelphia. And when she got there, she met William Still, who collected the largest collection of escaped slave narratives in American history. But after she got to Philly, Queen Mother Harriet Tubman said, I'm not done yet. I got other people I got to free. What good is my freedom without the rest of my people having it too?
That was a very, very powerful speech. So Dr. Umar Johnson, a prominent black activist, has long voiced a scathing critique of the American education system, particularly its treatment of black children. He argues that this system, rooted in what he calls white man's framework, is not designed to uplift black youth, but to suppress them, perpetuating a legacy of racial control and psychological subjugation. His perspective hinges on the belief that public school serves as a tool of systemic racism, prioritizing conformity of white cultural norms over the empowerment of black identity and intellect. Central to Dr. Umar's critique is his concept of psychoacademic holocaust, a term he uses to describe how black boys in particular are disproportionately targeted by special education programs and misdiagnosed with disorders like ADHD. He contends that these labels are less about addressing genuine learning challenges and more about stigmatizing black children, funneling them into a pipeline that limits their potential and often leads to incarceration. In his book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, The Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys, he asserts that the overdiagnosis of behavioral issues reflects a deliberate strategy to mark black youths as inferior, echoing historical narratives of racial science that branded African minds as deficient. Dr. Umar also critiques the curriculum itself, arguing it glorifies white history while erasing or distorting black contributions. He believes this erasure conditions black students to see themselves as peripheral to progress, reinforcing a power dynamic where whites are always in control, as he has stated in public forums. For him, the classroom becomes a battleground where cultural sensitivity is absent, and teachers, often untrained in the nuance of black experiences, misrepresent or misinterpret natural expressions of identity as defiance, further alienating students. As such, his solution is radical: the creation of independent black institutions, like his proposed Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, to counter what he sees as an irredeemable system. While his rhetoric is polarizing, blending sharp insights with controversial tangents, Dr. Umar's critiques resonates with those who view mainstream education as a perpetrator of iniquity. He challenges black communities to reject this white man's education and reclaim agency over their children's mind, framing it as a fight not just for learning, but for survival against a system he deems inherently oppressive. That is what Dr. Umar is saying, and I think I will agree with him in many aspects. If you look at the education system that we have in Africa, it is pegged towards praising white man and castigating black things. We are not taught about black history, and one thing that always happens is that our religion and even our spirituality are all being discarded away and branded as bad things. They are being talked about in a manner that suggests that they are demonic practices. If you look at our cultural practices that we used to be, if we have people who continue holding on to their cultural beliefs, they are regarded as people who are still primitive. Yet, this primitiveness is what the education system that we have right now is inserting in us, because it is denying us our own history and teaching us about someone else's history. This is something that I think I tend to agree with Dr. Umar on his assertion that blacks need to form their own education platforms where they can educate each other about black history to enlighten themselves and also understand more about their history. Tell me down in the comment section what you think about this. And if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like this video, and also share. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.